Hey luminaries, it's Leslie Tagorda, and I have your Business StarCast for the week of April 25th through May 1st, 2021. Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. Before we dive into the energies of the week, I just want to let you know that I'm recording this on Wednesday, April 21st, the day after the verdict in the George Floyd murder. There's been so much going on lately in the news, and I just feel that every time I open the news, there's just like this other piece of injustice that gets served, and it's really disheartening. So, while the verdict in the George Floyd murder is is good news, meaning that Chauvin is getting, well, he hasn't been sentenced yet. He's been convicted for the murder of George Floyd, which is a huge step in the right direction. It's not yet justice. Every freaking day, there are young Black and brown people, children being murdered by police. Every freaking day, there is another mass shooting with guns. Every freaking day in the United States. And this is definitely reaching critical mass. When I kind of look at the chart as to, looking at 2021, when I was looking at like what's going to go on in 2021 and talking about the systems breaking, now that we have Pluto stationing, last week I talked about Pluto coming to a complete stop, although, for the entire month of April, Pluto hasn't really moved off of that 26 degrees. Pluto just moves so slowly, and Pluto is just taking a stop at 26 degrees of Capricorn. And while Pluto's in Capricorn, Pluto is breaking down the old structures, breaking down all of the old versions of Capricorn, all of those duty filled, tradition holding, like the traditions that don't serve us, the traditions that hold a lot of us back from reaching our highest potential, from achieving, from just opportunities, right? That's kind of that Capricorn hierarchy, that old version of hierarchy coming in. And as Pluto's drilling down on 26 degrees, like he still has 4 more degrees to go in Capricorn, which it's going to take him the next couple of years to go through. I want you to start to notice the structures and all of these old paradigms that are really coming up. As I was kind of crafting like the May horoscope, like I know I'm ahead of myself here talking about the astrology of this upcoming week. It's bringing up a lot of despair personally for me. Like all of this has just been too much to hold, even though there are glimmers of hope. As I personally have received my second COVID vaccine, there's hope, but we have so much work to do. Another trait with this the Saturn square Uranus the entire year is Uranus in Taurus, and knowing that we have to upgrade, right? Upgrade and innovate how we take care of the land and take care of our environmental resources, because we are at critical mass. Like there is like no going back. And the reason why I'm talking about this social justice and I'm talking about these environmental concerns is because as the environment and the climate gets worse for us, of course, it's the people with marginalized people who are going to have the least amount of access to clean resources. And this isn't just a problem for people who are marginalized and underprivileged. This is a problem for all of us. And so, what I'm trying to really say here is that now that we're in Taurus season officially, and we're really thinking about our values, like Taurus season is about money, it's about prosperity, it's about the physical resources that we all need. this value that we are creating, it's not just value for me to use, for you to use, for just your closed circle, for just your family, for just your community. This, we have to start thinking on a global level because we are all at that point. So, what I'm saying with Taurus and values is that as we begin to look at our worth, look at our value, and really get clear how we are contributing back into society as a sustainable, responsible business. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I don't mean to ruffle my feathers here. It's up to us to help invest in that process. So earlier this year, I took a 2% giving pledge with Megan Hale. She's the creator of the Money Map and Quantum Leap offers. And I've been working with Megan Hale to kind of get my money straight. And she challenged all of us to put 2% to things that we value. And so I really extend the challenge to you. It doesn't matter if you started already, or if you haven't yet started yet, to really think about what's important to you and start to invest in those things. Invest in your own business, invest in giving, invest in your communities, invest in society, and really start to see your work through your business as a contribution to the whole, right? That's how we are going to get through all of this. We have a lot of work to do. I'm still trying to figure out where to give my 2%. I'm fluctuating between like the Green New Deal, AOC's project, where, you know, talking about environmental and climate things and like the cost of bringing up renewable energies and reading the pros and cons. And I'm just like reading all of these people who are against the Green New Deal. And I'm just like, yeah, it's expensive, but it's reparations for like what we've done in the last 100 years to like more than 100 years to the land. Like, okay, I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm sorry. I don't mean, you know, I'm normally like, I want to empower us and I want to look at the bright side of things. Pluto and Capricorn drilling down at 26 degrees of my personal values. Like my Venus is right at 26 degrees. And I'm just like, wow, what can we do? I feel a little bit hopeless, but we can't be hopeless, because hopeless means that nothing will change. So how are you going to use this Taurus season to up your value and contribute back to the world? I'll talk more about that after this week. Let's dive into the astrology of this upcoming week, dropping from April 25th, Sunday, April 25th through Saturday, May 1st, our last week of April. So this week we have Mercury and Venus, you know, dancing in the sky, both in Taurus, as we get to really express and connect with people over values, over beauty, over kind of looking at how we can stabilize our Mother Earth here. And then, of course, we have our full moon on Monday, the 26th. We start our Pluto retrograde. That's coming right up, starting on Tuesday. And then we end the week with a shakeup with Uranus as the sun meets Uranus in Taurus. So let's dive into the details. On Sunday, as you're collecting yourself for the upcoming work week, I want you to get curious with where can you say less? As Mercury squares off with Saturn, this happens exactly in the wee hours of 4:58 a.m. Pacific, 7:58 a.m. Eastern. The theme for Mercury squaring off with Saturn is say less, no need to over explain. What less can you say or communicate without words? In certain situations like today, there's no need to over explain or reiterate your asks. What can you do to get across your message that goes beyond words? This type of communication will have much greater impact with energy like today. If you use your Sundays to plan out your week, this kind of Mercury square with Saturn says like, hey, what can you cut out of your calendars so you're not overthinking things? Later on in that afternoon, Mercury will be joining Venus both at 13 degrees of Taurus at exactly 3:19 p.m. Pacific, 6:19 p.m. Eastern. And this is such a wonderful energy to really express your appreciation. How can you show your thanks beyond words. So it might be a great day to send a gift or to sing a song or, things again beyond words, because we're still feeling the effects of Mercury squaring off with Saturn earlier in the day. So the desire to use less words and say less remains. Yet by this point, when Mercury meets up with Venus, your heart is full with appreciation and gratitude. So don't let that go unacknowledged. Maybe show a gift to show how grateful you are. I love surprises, don't you? At this beginning of the week, we definitely have this Taurus pileup with the Sun, Uranus, Mercury, and Venus all in Taurus, and really coming and squaring off with Saturn in Aquarius. So if you have a lot of fixed energies around the degree, like give or take around the degrees of 13 degrees of fixed energies, you're going to be kind of feeling this tug. If I may get back on my high horse again before I go into the rest of the astrology, when I look at this chart, this just kind of reminds me with Taurus and Uranus. I've heard a lot of astrologers, specifically Pam Gregory, talking about with Uranus and Taurus and this square off with Saturn, that's a theme over this year, that there could be a lot of food scarcities and just scarcities of resources, physical resources in general. Now, we don't have to look across the world to India or another third world country to think about all of the resources and the scarcity and the famines that are going on, because these things are actually already happening in first world countries as well. There's a lot of things that are not being said, like with all of the storms that happened earlier in the heartland of the United States in Iowa. Like, what is going to be happening with resources coming forward? My husband works in technology, and they're always talking about computer parts and GPUs and all these little chips that they need for processing, and they're running out of those things right now too. And these kind of chip resources and scarcity is having a ripple effect not only in computer industry but also in the car industry. So, as what I'm trying to say, not to be like the chicken who's like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Start to notice where things are starting to feel scarce. And I was talking to my son about this the other day, because I want him to notice how lucky we are and how grateful we need to be for the resources that we do have, because there's others that don't have these kinds of resources. And it's not to say that we're always going to have these resources. So again, further, we need to take care of our environment. We need to appreciate what we have, and please do your best to not waste things like water, electricity, and start, thinking about how can you invest and purchase things that will last, instead of just kind of living in our consumeristic, that old kind of paradigm. We have our Scorpio full moon at 7 degrees of Scorpio that's happening at exactly 8:32 p.m. Pacific, 11:32 p.m. Eastern. For those of us on the Western Hemisphere will probably have a good view, if the nights are clear, to see this intense Scorpio full moon. The theme for this lunation, this illumination lunation, is I empower myself by releasing jealousy. I let it all go. If you take a look at the chart for the full moon, you will see, if you don't know how to read a chart, if you just look at the geometry of it and the beauty of the drawing of the chart, you can see the moon just really opposing all of the Taurus energies. There's a bunch of kind of red lines that indicate harder transits, harder aspects, and things feel kind of rough. The saving grace with this full moon really is that the traditional ruler of Scorpio, which is Mars, is in another water sign in Cancer. So kind of cooling off our emotions. Our emotions are really driving us at this point, but it's in a harmonious flow with this intense Scorpio full moon. We also have a T square to Saturn in Aquarius, that square that is still pretty much in orb with Uranus all year. That's still in a wide orb with all of the other Taurian energies right now. So things can feel really intense, especially when it comes to jealousies over money and resources. I know I just was on my high horse talking about scarcity and being grateful and having all these things and not over consuming all these things with Taurus. Like Taurus is all about over consuming. But today, if you're really feeling yourself being triggered by jealousy, like if you're scrolling through social media and you're noticing people who are like making $60,000 in a launch or like $10,000 in a launch, and it's kind of putting you into a spiral, this is a great day to let all of those triggers go. So, a powerful day to do a release ritual with the emotional moon in sensitive Scorpio facing off all the Taurian energies of the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus. If there is one day to really say goodbye to all your shadows and jealousies, today is the day to detox. When you do, this will leave so much room for authentic empowerment. I know in authentic empowerment, we hear that all of the time in spiritual entrepreneurship, but really authentic empowerment is really the key to Scorpio. Scorpio's authenticity is purely knowing and recognizing her own deep power. And that's what Scorpio moon, this full moon, really wants to illuminate. That's the highest elevation of Scorpio, is seeing that the power is within ourselves, that all we have to do is just be ourselves and not try to be anybody else, not try to copy anybody else. That is the power of Scorpio. To be truthful, to look at yourself as and look at what really keeps you from experiencing empowerment and prosperity. Oof, I know that's a lot here, but this is really good for us to let go and recognize these kinds of triggers around worthiness and the mindset issues that allow us to not, or keep us from not seeing our value or contributing our value, or keeping secrets and not wanting to share our value. All of those things come from these mindsets of there's not enough. And 2 weeks before our Taurus new moon, where we start to plant our seeds for creating abundance, this is really important work to do, to kind of look at what you need to let go of. What or who are you jealous of? What is it about someone else's success that might trigger you, especially when it comes to success around prosperity? I mean, we don't really know other people's stories. When you're looking at Instagram, who knows? So, this is the key, right? Notice those triggers, because these kind of pangs of jealousy are indications of your desires and abilities that are not yet realized. These triggers, the stronger that they are, mean that your soul is like, wait, I can have that too. It's a possibility for you. I understand personally that this may be easier said than done, but it's time to release. Okay, on the very next day, on Tuesday, on April 27th, Pluto officially goes retrograde at exactly 1:04 p.m. Pacific, 4:04 p.m. Eastern. Let's feel into the intensity of distillation. What emotional truths want to come to light? Now, someone in the Savvy Luminary, my free Facebook group, if you're not yet a member, come on in. It's a fun, free Facebook group where other entrepreneurs who love to use astrology come to mingle and chat. Someone there asked, oh, does Pluto go retrograde every year? Yes, Pluto does go retrograde every year. Those outer planets, Pluto, Saturn, Uranus, even Jupiter, well, Jupiter and Saturn are not officially outer planets, but they do go retrograde about half the year. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, because those planets are so far out, and compared to the Earth circling around the sun, we are moving so fast compared to those other planets. So basically, every time we take a lap around the sun, Pluto takes 200 and something years to try to go around the sun. So every time we go around the sun, it'll look like Pluto starts to go backwards. And so, yes, Pluto goes backwards once a year, that kind of retrograde. It's not really going backwards. It just looks like it's going backwards. And normally this doesn't, because this is such a subtle energy, we won't normally feel this retrograde. It's just moving like two degrees in the entire year. The half of the year where Pluto will be going backwards between Capricorn of 24 and 26 degrees is such a small piece of the entire chart. And where it starts to really get personal is if you have natal energies around that Capricorn 24 and 26 degrees, plus or minus like a 5 degrees in either Capricorn or cardinal signs like Aries, Cancer, Libra, and of course Capricorn, or earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Because those natal energies, if you have any of those cardinal or earth energies in that late signs between late degrees between 24 and 26 degrees, if you have natal energies in cardinal earth signs, those energies are being activated. And basically, Pluto is just drilling down on those energies and saying, hey, it's time to transform your natal energies. So, for example, this is really happening for me personally because I have my natal Venus right at 26 degrees of Capricorn in the eighth house. And so, in this entire year, Pluto is basically just hanging out on top of my Venus in my eighth house, really like transforming how I feel, all the shame that I have in relationships, all the taboos that I have in relationships. I'm not going to go into my personal story. I'll just cut it off there. Excuse me. So, with this theme for everyone, what emotional truths want to come to light? I guess I'm an open book of emotions today as I'm recording this podcast because I'm sharing some pretty deep things that I don't often share with everyone. So, today, as Pluto shifts gears and appears to go backwards in the sky, Pluto spends about 50% of the year in reverse. And because this dwarf planet, it was demoted to a dwarf planet, is so far removed from us on Earth, his effects are subtle. For the week up to and away from this shift is where we really feel the power of Pluto the most intensely. The key to working with Pluto is to dive into the intensity. If you try to avoid the intensity, Pluto will only up the heat because Pluto is the planet of distillation. How does alcohol get distilled? By amping up the heat. Notice what shadows want to come into the light. Befriend these shadows, get to know them, their hurts, and work through them. Be thankful for these shadows because by understanding these shadows and the stories they want us to understand, this is how you transform. So again, that small area between Capricorn of 24 degrees and 26 degrees is where Pluto will be highlighting during this retrograde cycle. So if you have any natal planets like me in late degrees of cardinal signs or earth signs, you will feel the intensity of these energies wanting to transform in your business and life. Pluto will go direct again all the way in October. So we have quite a lot of time while it's going backwards. And lastly, for this week, on the 30th, Friday, April 30th, we have the Sun meeting Uranus in Taurus at 10 degrees, where the theme is creative fuel breakthroughs. So Sun and Uranus are cazimi, meaning like Uranus is in the heart of the Sun. That's what cazimi means, at exactly 12:54 p.m. Pacific, 3:54 p.m. Eastern. And anytime there is a planet that is like exact with the Sun, this kind of cazimi is like an overload, right? When you think about looking at the Sun is so blinding that any planet that is in the heart of the Sun sometimes is not able to fully express itself because the Sun is so bright. But what you will have at kind of the leading up to the exact conjunction and the leading away when Uranus is not directly in the middle of the Sun, we are going to have these creative breakthroughs. And so what about your offerings and what you do? That's your creative fuel represented by the Sun in your brand. What about what you do needs an evolution and an up level? That's Uranus. You've had a lot of breakthrough energy this month, especially last week with both Venus and Mercury meeting up with Uranus. Now it's your creative juice and vitality's turn. For the next few days leading up to and past this exact meeting, you get the opportunity to up-level your offerings. The sun in our business is what we do and our unique talent and approach to what we do. Okay, got that? The sun is so important in our brand. With Uranus's revolutionary energy, it's time to up level and upgrade what you do. We need this quantum leap, and we get it every year as the sun passes across Uranus in the sky. Look to your chart to see where Taurus of 10 degrees falls. Any natal energies around this degree in fixed signs like Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, or earth signs like Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn will have a say in your creative upgrade. All right, everyone, that is all that I have for this week. Thank you for letting me get on top of my soapbox and really talk about the things that are important to me that I hope are also important to you. It's time that we are all responsible for this Mother Earth and start giving back to Mother Earth for all that she has given us, because resources, they can be sustainable, but not in the way that we have been using them up to now. So I really appreciate you and thank you so much. I hope that this forecast serves so that you can plan your week in accordance with the cosmic energies we all get to play with. And if you have a business bestie, if you wouldn't mind sharing this podcast with them, if you think that they would love a dose of spirituality, a dose of astrology, so that they can run with more ease and flow in their spiritual business. All right, luminaries, until soon. Talk to you later. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating and review on Apple iTunes.